Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making my first Christmas outfit of the season. That's probably just going to be one Christmas outfit of the season, but you know what? Better than nothing. I found this fabric at Joann's actually. It's red and black and it has a little sparkle to it. And I really love a tartan fabric for the holidays, and I was gonna go with straight red and green, but I decided that it was a little too on the nose for me and I wanted to be able to wear this for the whole winter. So I went ahead and just got this instead. I think I got 4 yards and I think that might be too much, but I also didn't make a pattern before I got it. So it could be too little, I'm not sure. We're gonna find out. My plan for this outfit is to make this jumper that I have, this like overall set, but like the same kind of like overall front, but then a circle skirt on the bottom half of it. It's hard to see this because it's black. There we go. There's not much to it. It's not that exciting. It's just like a simple black like jumper, but I love it. It fits so comfortably, and it doesn't even have a fancy waistband in the front. It's just literally stitched together. But it does have a little waistband in the back, and it has a zipper, but this actually has such a relaxed fit that I've never needed to undo the zipper to get it over my bottom. So I think I'm just gonna use this as a pattern and put an elastic band instead. I don't know where my zippers are, and frankly, I don't care to look for them or buy a new one when I can just add an elastic. I will be doing these kind of straps, but I'm gonna make them crisscross in the back instead of straight back because I really like how that looks. Plus they don't fall down as easy. I will be adding pockets. These have the pockets on the front, but I'll be adding them in the side. And I think what I'm gonna do is just take this hardware off. So these straps directly to this, since one of them is already coming out anyway, it's all pinned. And then I can use this hardware on the new jumper. So that's my plan for that. I am going to be adding a pocket here because I love the way pockets look on these, and I think I might add a beret with it. I think. We'll see. I hope I have enough or know the right measurements because I'm not sure. I've never made a beret. But wouldn't this be so cute with like a matching beret? Oh my god. Like, yeah. I'm going to put this jumper on for inspo, and then we're going to get started. Alright guys, let's do it! Okay, so voiceover Hillary here. In these few clips I am just taking out the stitches to make sure I can take out the hardware from my old jumper. So here I am using the old jumper to get the waist measurement. I really like the way that it fits, so I was using that. And here I am writing down that information. So I wanted to do this full circle skirt, but instead I accidentally took the measurements and did the math for the half circle skirt. Yeah, I meant to do the full, but I ended up just doing half. So to get that waist measurement, I'm just taking my R value and measuring from the tip of that 90-degree angle down into the fabric. And when you connect all those dashes, it becomes a quarter circle, which is your waist measurement. So I wanted my skirt to be 18 inches long, so I'm just measuring 18 inches from that first arc around my waist, and it will make the desired length of my skirt. Another arc there, and then I just connect those dashes. And always label your patterns. Here I am cutting it out. The notches you see there are also just because I ran out of paper. Once you make your skirt pattern, you won't have those notches, which will make your life much easier. As I'm drafting the top piece or bodice of the jumper, I'm using the skirt's waist as a template. I thought this would make for a smoother transition to the half circle skirt, but as you'll see later, it actually makes the fit way more snug. I wish I would have made the bodice piece straight across on the bottom instead of rounded. Here I'm just labeling the pattern as always, finding the midpoint, adding some seam allowance, which I usually do about 3/8, and then I'm going to actually cut the pattern piece out in half and make sure I label to cut on the fold line when I cut it out of the fabric. Finally, to the actual fabric. I had to refold the fabric along the selvage edge instead of where it was on the cut edge to ensure I had enough for the length of my skirt, which was 18 inches. As you can see, I laid the pattern on the fabric, making sure both edges were lined up to the selvage and folded edge. I would also recommend cutting this out on a floor or a bigger table. Not having enough room here on this table really made it difficult, and it's going to actually set you up for issues if you're not perfectly lined up. You could accidentally cut a really weird shaped skirt. By the way, if I haven't mentioned it already, I will link all of my pattern paper, fabric, and tools in the description below for you guys to find. Ugh, just like I was saying, now since I don't have enough room to cut it out, this is me having to do this fancy fold job to try and get it to cut out correctly, especially because I had those notches in the pattern paper, so I couldn't just cut blind. I had to fold it to make sure I was cutting on the right line. What a mess. Just cut it the right way the first time, people, and make sure you're on a nice table. Also, since I only did a half circle skirt instead of a full circle skirt, I actually had enough fabric to cut the lining out of the same fabric. So I cut 2 pieces. So here we are cutting the bodice piece. I made sure to cut on the fold line since I only made the bodice piece a half, so it's on a fold there. And again, I wish I made it a straight bottom, but I will have to go back and fix that later, I guess. And I cut 2 of these to make sure it was lined in the same fabric. Here I'm just doing some measurements to see where I want the pocket to fit, how big I want it, just kind of making some random measurements here. And I ended up going 6 by 6, so I made it 7 by 7 so that I could leave room for some seam allowance. Here I also referenced the bodice for the direction the pattern was going. I actually wanted the pocket to stand out, so I rotated the pattern of the pocket before I cut it. So here I'm just folding the fabric along the bias so I can cut some bias tape for the straps and the waistband. I'm cutting these at 3 inches so that once they're folded and top stitched, they will be 1 1/4 inches, which will fit the hardware I have. These are the small strips for the top of the bodice where the straps will anchor into. I'm just serging them, folding them over, top stitching them, and then they're ready to pin into the bodice. Here is the bodice piece all pinned. The straps are in between the top and lining layer, right sides together, and I am serging 3 sides to close both the sides and the top, leaving the bottom open. I'm going to flip that inside out, turn those corners, and top stitch the whole thing. Nice and secure. Now for the pocket. Off camera, I ironed all 4 sides down 1/2 inch and top stitched where I wanted the top to be. Then I pinned it on to the bodice and top stitched it, leaving the top open. I'm going through both the top and lining layer for extra stability, but if you didn't want to see the stitches on the inside, you could add this pocket before attaching the strap anchors. Okay, now on to the skirt. Carefully put in your widest stitch length you can for a basting stitch across both layers of the skirt on the top, because that bias will make it stretch a little bit if you're not careful. So you want to make sure it's secure before you start working with it. Okay, so I maybe jumped the gun on this step a little bit. I thought I was like saving myself some time by hemming the entire skirt now. So what I did was I serged the bottoms of the lining and top layer together and top stitched them just to save time. And looking back, it actually made my life a little bit more difficult. So maybe not do this step quite yet. So it's time to attach the bodice. I pinned the bodice to the front layer, right sides together, then folded the skirt in on itself so I could add the lining layer over the bodice. Basically, it's a sandwich. Skirt front, bodice, skirt lining. And right about now, I'm realizing that I forgot to add the waistband first before closing up all three sides of the bodice. So I just have to seam rip that out a little bit and get ready to add the waistband. For that waistband, I just cut the bias tape in half, so they're 1.5 inch strips, and I serged the sides together, turned them over, top stitched them, and then I'll be adding the elastic in that casing before attaching it to the bodice and the skirt. Here's me attaching that elastic and the casing to the bodice front before then sewing the entire thing together. Cool, perfect. Yeah, ready to pin it together. Yeah, looks great. Oh crap. Forgot to actually attach that elastic in that casing to the bodice. Oh my gosh, here I go again. Taking it apart and redoing it. Okay, for real this time. Let's serge it together. Let's top stitch it with the elastic in the casing this time. We're good to go. Now I can pin the whole waistband together with the elastic in the casing, and I can serge it all together and top stitch it, finally finishing off the waistband. See, now if I would have waited to finish the bottom hem, I wouldn't have had to turn the whole thing inside out and make it all awkward, like it would have just been open already. So next time I won't do that. Once I was done with that top stitch, now is a really good time to remove the basting stitch so you don't have to do it later. And then of course you take it to the serger and close off the other side of the skirt while you can, leaving room open for the pockets later. Ah, finally done! Yay! Okay, please excuse my very messy shop that is behind me, but now's a really good time to try it on, and this is where a full-length mirror is really going to come in handy, because if I would have seen what it looked like with the front not flat, you'll see in just a second. there. What it would have looked like if I would have made the bodice flat on the bottom instead of rounded like the skirt, it would have fit so much better and I would have had extra room and it would have looked so much nicer. So, but of course I wasn't looking, so I didn't see it, so I thought it was fine. That'll just be something I fix later. Instead, let's move on to the pockets. This is just a quick pattern I drafted by myself. I can do a pocket tutorial video sometime, but this is just a quick pattern I drafted that fit my hand perfectly, and I cut 4 pieces of it in a lining fabric. I'm not going to go into detail about how I attach the pockets, but I will say I left a gap in the open side seams of the skirt and pinned the pockets to that gap. For the other side, I used my rotary knife to make a slit where I wanted the pocket to go and pin the pockets there. It was directly where the bodice meets the waistband, right under there, if that makes sense. Aww, and for some reason, if you haven't already met Crusher the mini pig, there she is. She's always got to stay by her mom, so she has a little blanket bed next to me when I'm sewing. Hey, Crushy. Hey, special girl. Hey, very sweet girl. Okay, back to business. So here I am serging the pockets to the skirt, and then I will be serging the side seam of the skirt around the pockets and down the rest of the side seam. I promise you guys, I am going to fix where my camera is set up so that I can get better camera angles for you, because I realize you can't see literally anything I'm doing. So I appreciate your patience, and I'm working on it, I promise. Alright, so here I am just finishing up the straps, folding that 3-inch over in half and serging it, and then I'll be turning it inside of itself and top stitching it. But first I'm going to top stitch these pockets. Here I am using my turner to get the straps right side out and then top stitching them. I'm also going to cut them on a 45 to make sure that they sit flat when they are crossed back along my back, and I'm going to serge the ends so they're all binded together, and then I'm going to pin them into the waistband and attach them with a crisscross X stitch. It's like a little box with an X through it, so it's really stable. But of course I'll need a full bobbin for that, so even though I'm right at the end of my project, isn't that always where your bobbins run out, right? I'll just do that real quick and then secure them on. Now, making sure your straps are straight and not twisted, bring them to the front, put them through your hardware, and secure that by folding it over once and then folding over it again and just doing a straight stitch over top of it. And would you look at that? We are done! OMG, great job, girl! Looking so good! Okay, so let's talk about what happened. So overall, I think this was a really fun project, and it could have been easier if I had a pattern. I'm so against patterns because I feel like they can never fit me the way that I need them to fit, and so I thought if I went with making my own pattern based off clothing I know that'll fit well, it would work out better for me. But the thing is, like, you don't have a pattern and a step-by-step guide to tell you, do this first, now do this second, and then it'll be perfect because you'll be ready for number 3. And I definitely could have used that during the making of this, because how many times did I have to go back, take out my stitches, and redo something just because I was like, oh, I didn't think about that, oh, I didn't think about that. But I mean, overall, I'm really happy with it, and I understand, like, that's what happens when you make something for the first time and you don't have a pattern. Also, so cute. I'm loving this beret. I think it's so fun. It's a little big. I think that next time I would go small because this is pretty dramatic. It's pretty, it's not like a hint of a beret. It's, I mean, you're wearing a beret. Also these just come apart like so easily. So I'm gonna have to sew them down, I think. And I think they'll fit better. I love this little pocket. I think it's perfect. I will definitely be attempting this pattern again. Maybe I'll rewatch this video and write down, like, do this first and like write myself a pattern, because then I feel like it'll be a lot easier and I can do it with like even a stretchier fabric or a sateen or something like that, for like a different look. Maybe like a long skirt. Maybe like I'll do like a full bodice next time, so it's like a full thing, because how cute would that be in the summer? Or like a little short set. That would be so fun. So I am gonna try it again, but I do need to watch this video and decide what to do differently next time.